Good evening, everybody. Hope you're well. Welcome to Sniper Sundays. Hope you had a great weekend and ready for the new week. So what we're going to start off with today is the fundamentals. It's quite important this week, looking ahead at the fundamentals. We sort of half looked at this week on last week's Sniper Sundays, which was looking at 2 weeks ahead, because we could see that there wasn't an awful lot of fundamentals in the market on last week, even though we did see some big moves. But this week we have more fundamentals, and we have fundamentals surrounding very, very important pairs, which we're going to be watching. So we've got some US dollar news on Monday, nothing too major. And it is actually a European bank holiday in Germany and France. So, but then we get to Tuesday where it starts to get interesting. We have the cash rate from the Reserve Bank of Australia rate statement coming out at 6:30 a.m. UK time Tuesday morning. So we need to be up and watching that and ready for that at the end of the Asian session, coming into the London session. So that will be interesting. Nothing really else high impact that day. But then the Wednesday, 2:30 a.m. UK time. This is all UK time, guys. We've got Aussie dollar GDP being released. Then we have some US dollar non-farm employment change ahead of non-farm payroll, which I'll get to in a minute on Friday. Then we've got Canadian dollar news as well on Wednesday afternoon, 3 p.m. overnight. Rate bank statement, very, very interesting. Then Thursday we have Euro news, ECB press conference, monetary policy statement from Euro, which is going to be quite important. But we have Australian dollar news Tuesday, Wednesday, Canadian dollar news, and then Friday, obviously the big one, we have the Canadian dollar and the US non-farm employment change and unemployment rate, non-farm payroll. So big week fundamentally on the calendar ahead of us. Big week fundamentally ahead of us on the let's just quickly go back on the economic calendar. We also have some manufacturing PMI coming from China, which has actually been released. You can see here before market open. New Zealand dollar bank holiday today as well. So yeah, big week ahead on fundamentally on the economic calendar. So I'm going to start off with the most interesting thing to look at the moment is the US dollar. So we saw last week we had a big sell-off on the US dollar. Sniper Sundays we had looked at potentially pulling back, and then if we had a pullback looking for a long, because we expected to come back up to these highs. However, we broke down and it was just a bearish week. Just looking on a weekly, you can see here very, very bearish week. Now we look at the US dollar. Remember, the month has now closed. We look at, well, it closes tonight, and the US dollar monthly candle looks like this. So we just move this to the side for a minute. You can see here we've almost got, well, we've had this massive spike up to and down, which was around the coronavirus epidemic in the middle of it, where we saw the wild movement for the whole month, looking at spike up and spike down. Then we've retested this sort of resistance level last month, and we came back this month, and it looks to be turning bearish. However, with the week ahead and with the news ahead, anything can really happen. And what we can find in recent times is that even with a bearish week, the next week can do the complete opposite, and especially even more so where we can see that the US dollar has been within this range since the end of March. We've been within this range where it hasn't really moved an awful lot. This is on the US dollar index. We can see that we sort of kept within about a 300 pip range on the US dollar index. So Friday we saw a big push down. We saw a pin bar printed here, but I do not think it's time to buy the US dollar just yet. However, I do think time is coming. Now, one thing we do have to, however, need to watch out for, and I mentioned this especially last month with non-farm payroll week, is the week can get going straight away as soon as market opens, because it can get priced in, price can move, and we could potentially see a very bullish run from early on in the week before the non-farm payroll results come out on Friday. However, as technicals stand, we've seen a pin bar here. More often than not, we will see an area of support retested twice. Now, we have sort of supported this area over here. The support has tested this for a second time. So it's important to wait for tomorrow to see what happens here, especially the daily candle printed tomorrow. We had a bullish candle here. This would mean 1, 2, 3. A bullish candle being printed would print a morning star formation on the daily. could see some push up to the upside. But even though the weekly is quite bearish, as I said last week, we can just see here from the last couple of months, a bullish week doesn't mean continuation the week after, and bearish week doesn't mean the continuation the week after either. As we can see here on the weekly, we've been literally up, down, up, down, up, down. So I'm looking at potentially price coming back down a little bit lower, rejecting this area, this support made on Friday, and then having a push up to the upside. On the 4 hour here, we can see we just tried to creep back up within this range, but I will be looking for this to potentially come back down, retest these areas, maybe retest this level of support. And if this area can hold, then on the higher time frames, we do have a lot of support coming in and around this area, as you can see, and we could potentially see price push back up. It's a very, very, very important week for the US dollar. It seems like a massive sell-off. Obviously, the bears are in control at the moment, but in current market conditions, things can change very, very quickly. So we are within this range. That's the simple thing we can see. Let's not try to overthink it too much. We've rejected the bottom of this range. Continuing rejection from here, we could see a push back up. We could see a push back up to the upside, and possibly even higher before a bigger sell-off. So that's a sort of situation we'll be looking out for some time on the US dollar. Now moving across to gold, we did spot this potential of a buying opportunity around 1700 last week. However, reacted quite quickly off this level and pushed up. Now, I do think that there is going to be a bigger sell-off on gold before potentially creating new highs in the future. So this is what I can see at the moment. We can see here we're currently making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower high here, lower low, and we're coming back up towards making a lower high at the moment. We had a bit of a push up on Friday, as we can see here. We sort of broke out of this trend line, as we can see here, 0.1, 0.2, came up, made 0.3, potential looked at, showing us potential short trades, but you can see that was short-lived. We sort of rejected this level of support. Now what I'll be watching this week is we'll just actually come back down into this region, and then we're going to be looking at buying opportunities back up to about 1750. So looking at coming back down again to around 1720, 1720, 1717 potentially, and then we'll be looking at a move back up towards 1750. And from 1750, we'll have to see how prices reacted around then. We may be looking for a sell-off from there if we can get that pullback. So ideally, it'd be nice to get a long trade in here and then hedge against it around the 1750 as we look to come back down to 1700 and take out 1693, which was the low made last week. So I'm looking at this sort of formation format at the moment. You can see here we sort of formed the right shoulder to this left shoulder here, but it looks like price can come back down, retest this, form another right shoulder, a more convincing right shoulder to this left shoulder here, retest the back of this trend line that we've broken out of, and we could see a push up to the upside. So at the moment, the bulls are back in control. Daily, we had quite a strong day on the daily. We broke through that trend line. Bit of weakness at the end of the day, as you can see, price pushed back down. However, as I said, I can see this pushing up a little bit higher. And we can see here on the weekly chart, I'll just clear some of this. We'll just get in here. We can see here we've had quite a clear rejection of 1700 to push back up. So looking on a little bit of a pullback on this weekly candle, and then the price trying to continue this push back up into around that 1750 level. So you can see here this daily candle, we can expect a little bit of a retracement on this, as it wasn't the strongest bullish candle. If we can find some support here on the 4 hour, come back down into this region, we're looking for a push up into where we were actually looking at taking a short trade last week, if you remember. We were looking for price to pop up into this region to then have a sell-off when price was trading here. We were looking for a push up into that region to then take a short trade. Wanted to come up into here for a nice entry, but price then sold off from here straight away rather than we're at from our zone. So now it looks like we're going to come back up into that zone, looking for potentially a little sell-off at the start of the week, and then we're looking for a push up into that area. But price could, depending on obviously the weekend, price could maybe just go straight into the zone where we might be able to look for shorting opportunities. But at the moment, I do see a little maybe a nudge back down into this region. We can see a nice head and shoulders forming here, inverse head and shoulders, a little pullback on this broken trend, find some support, and then a push up into this region. US oil, so trade we were looking at last week, or we were in last week, just over 100 pips in profit. However, unfortunately, moved back quite fast at the end of the day. It was one of those days on Friday that I could see the oil and a lot of pairs were going to go one way or the other. Friday can have some wild moves in the market, and coupled with the Friday being the last day of the month, we could expect some big moves. And there was a good possibility of seeing a nice pullback on oil, not only from where we took the trade, but to pull back even lower before potentially a move up higher. And it still is. So hold on to that trade Friday. We could have, we could see here we were very, very bearish. We had consecutive bearish candles on the 4 hour, pushing down here, but then we made a swift reversal later in the day. However, this could perhaps break down, and it is due to soon break down and form a real retracement on the daily chart. So I'm just going to clear this off quickly. You can see here on the weekly and on the monthly, it looks quite bullish at the moment. Remember what has happened to oil. We can understand that even though this is very, very bullish at the moment, very bullish month, it's come after the biggest sell-off on oil in history. So obviously we have to expect a bit of a retracement and a bit of a bounce from the lows. Obviously a bit of a bounce from the lows of zero on oil. But as we start to see some profit taking, we can expect this to fizzle out and still have a pullback, and maybe we come back to retest around these lows around here. Maybe not quite back down to zero, but we can expect a pullback before moving higher. Now we drop down to the weekly from this. We can see here, with no reversal, we're going to have a full-blown reversal. We can expect to look at some patterns, some price action. Currently here, what we can see on the weekly chart, as we came down, we had a support, broke through support, pushed back up, haven't come back and retested support, and currently just on a very, very bullish run. Now here, if we just look at that support, we've got this support, 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 bullish push, enticing in new long traders before the push down. Now we've broken back up above the support, but like I said, we haven't retested, and we need to come back and retest this. You can see that that makes a left shoulder, head, and a right shoulder to be formed. Going to the daily chart, we can also see that sort of, you can see it a little bit clearer. You can see here, since price has broken back above this resistance here, it hasn't pulled back and found support, which is what I'm expecting this oil to do. And what we can see here is from here, we're trading around $35. A pullback to $20 is quite a substantial move. You're talking about 1,500 pips or so. So watching out for that. As I said, guys, I said many times before, I know you can look at a pair sometimes and think it is so bullish, why are we looking at taking a short trade? But I've showed you many times GBPUSD recently when EURJPY was at its 2-3 year lows. That is where things change. That's where the bulls can enter the market, like a EURJPY, and it's when you think that there is no trade there, you need to be looking, you need to be foreseeing these type of structures, these type of moves. Yes, it looks very bullish. We have to understand there is going to be a pullback. The market has to adhere to technical analysis. There is going to be a high, then there's going to be a higher low. But also, like as I said with before with GBPUSD, when it was at all-time lows, it just didn't look like there was any opportunity for a buy, and then things changed very quickly. So you have to sort of see these areas as great opportunities. When you see things are overbought or oversold, that's an opportunity to be looking at getting into the market and holding a trade for quite some time. So at the moment where oil looks very bullish, we've just broken out of this little range, which I'll drop down to in a minute, which we were in on last week. We were within this range. It's broken above. Looks like it can actually push up a little bit more, but still we are watching this very closely coming into next week. So if I just clear this all off again, you can just see here, not range tool, made a high, made a low, create a range, so you can understand what price action is doing. So made a high, made a low within this range. We've broken up to the upside. Looks like we may be able to potentially push up even higher. We put on a most recent fib. You can see here high, low. We've got a Fibonacci extension that could sit slightly higher, but yeah, we're going to watch how the market opens up this week. Can we push on and make a new high here before pulling back down? I think we probably can, but as I said, they're making highs, they're making lows, highs. You can see even on that little retracement we had last week was 100 pips. I was expecting more, so we held out for a bigger push. but even so, just on a minor retracement here, that was 100 pips, which is something that we can looking for next week. So we're going to see how this opens up. If we push up into these regions, start to fizzle out again, we can be looking at a trade. At the moment though, we can see we are in consolidation zone. We have just broken above, a pullback below here, continue to move around in this region. Then we could potentially be looking for trades here next week. So yeah, oil is going to be one to basically keep a very close eye on. There might be nothing right at the start of the week, but we're going to be keeping a close eye on this pair this week. We're just breaking out of this range now. As I said, could push up a little bit higher. Sorry guys, could push up a little bit higher, but all of this region is yeah, we could look at very nice potential reversals on oil. Double top, taking out the previous high. We are making higher lows, however, but a pullback below here, especially if we continue to watch this, we may get trades from higher up, but if we break this higher low structure, then we're going to see a lot of downside on oil. EURUSD, so EURUSD obviously very interesting, along with the US dollar situation at the end of last week. So we're looking at potential short trades from around this area. We're within this range, just like the US dollar is, and then Thursday, Friday, we completely broke out. Big push up, continued to push on Friday. Now what we'll be watching is I am looking for a pullback. Though the US dollar, we had to be careful here. US dollar was quite weak. We have to monitor it here, but I'm expecting a push back down. But I do expect the market to sort of catch people by surprise and see another push back up to the upside. Especially with all the news coming out next week. Let's see what happens. So EURUSD here at the moment. I do see the US dollar pushing up high, or EURUSD pushing up higher, like GBPUSD. I've called this as a long-term goal or target is to push up highs, come back up to around 11500 and higher on EURUSD. However, with that US dollar sell-off last week, it was happening sooner than I think it's going to happen. It looks like price, we are still in consolidation zone here. I think price can still push back up to the upside, see all the US dollar gain strength again before a larger sell-off and coming back down. So I'm monitoring very closely within this range here with the US dollar. It does look like the Euro US dollar has a lot more upside at the moment. You can see here we just come into this level of resistance. But however, what I'm looking out for this week and what I'm going to be watching out for is we can obviously see here we've broken out of this range. Coming into this week now, I can expect this to potentially try and push up on this push up a little bit higher, maybe another bullish push above the highs made last week, as people get in too early and try to take a short trade too early. We might see a little minor pullback and then retest this resistance. As I explained, I'm expecting the US dollar to retest support down here. So I'm expecting price to try and retest this level. You can see here we've got this area of resistance over here. And yeah, coming into next week, I'm going to monitor this very closely. I think we can come up here, potentially make a new higher high, and then we're going to see a sell-off on the EURUSD. We're going to see a pushback down here. We are very bullish at the moment. As I said, you have to look ahead and look at the bigger picture and what could be coming for the rest of the week. So we're going to be watching out for short trades coming from around the highs here. That you can see this double top that's being made currently at the moment. Potentially try and pierce through this and try and break through any resistance from around these areas. We could be looking at a nice short trade back down in EURUSD. Where we go from there, we will have to see. But there is every opportunity of EURUSD having a push from these highs and coming all the way back down to sort of these lows and the bottom of this range once again. Very similar to the US dollar index. Coming back down to these lows once again. So we've broken out of what was this sort of range here, and we're broken up to here. So this could now become the new range that we see on EURUSD. We could potentially reject around these levels and see price push all the way back down. So I am expecting US dollar to pick up some strength from around this level. We have to see what happens at the start of the week. We might need to reassess, but again, I think we could potentially push down here, look like we're going to break lower, but then see a push back up to the upside. EURJPY, so about 2 weeks ago I've highlighted that I'm going to be watching this one from 0.900 for a sell-off, and where we could be looking at taking a trade on this. At the moment, we can see here last week we pushed up towards that 0.900 level. We come back up to it again. This week we spiked through on Friday, big push up, and then a big push all the way back down, taking out any previous highs. Looks like this could be a turning point in the market. Weekly, we can see here we're actually kept within this sort of 100 pip range. Had a spike below, had a spike above, but we still stay between this 100 pip range here. And yeah, it does look like we could potentially now have that push back down. So we dip back below 0.900. What we're going to be looking for is for price to pull back down, might come back a little bit lower, pull back, form resistance, left shoulder, head, potential right shoulder, and we're going to be looking for a trade down on Euro GBP. So that's the setup we're looking for at the moment. We saw that nice pullback, but here on the daily chart, we can expect that we may see a little bit of a retracement on this candle. And a bearish end to the week. We have to see how this week opens up. We might have a little bit of a retracement on this daily candle. We could come back up, reject it, show that we're going to reject this area again, and then have a move to the downside. We can see price push down. Euro AUD. So Euro AUD and Euro NZD quite similar. We are finally starting to show signs that we may be able to push up higher. However, every push up is still being rejected here. Now, I expect price to come back down. We can see this sort of left shoulder, head, right shoulder. I'm expecting price to come back down to retest this last higher low here. So we can see here we've got a higher high, a higher low, a higher high. Looking for price to come back down into this region, find some support where we will be then looking for a push up on Euro AUD. And once we push down here, find support, we could potentially see a big push up here. With the second wave. Now we can see here that we could come into sort of the 61.8% retracement level. If this holds, then there's a big trade on here. We need price to hold here. We need price to come back down. We've seen this bullish push here on the daily, bullish, but we've had this rejection. If we come back down, find a nice 4-hour daily rejection here, we could be looking for a nice trade back up here and ride this one back up and have a nice move to the upside. Same with Euro NZD, sort of similar situation here on the daily chart. You can see that we've had a push up here last week, but again, on the end of Friday, we can see we pushed back down, so it wasn't too convincing. So we've had a bullish, 3 bullish days, drop down to the 4-hour. What we're now looking at is to have a pullback on a Fibonacci pullback of a retracement, find support to show us that we can move higher. At the moment, we are still bearish. So we need support to show us that we can change direction, find some support here, and as I said, change direction. Obviously, big part of this is going to be the the New Zealand dollar and the Aussie dollar performance on the Euro AUD and the Euro NZD pairs. At the moment, we do look like we're finding some strong support here. We had a nice little push up from here, as you can see on the daily. We've had this sort of tweezer bottom here on the daily. We've pushed up. Now we're going to have a little bit of a pullback. On this pullback, we can be looking at taking entries on a long trade. So at the moment, we've got high, high, low, high, high. So looking at price coming back down into this region, and from here we can be looking at price to come back, reject, and push off to the upside. EURJPY, now daily, this is just on the daily chart, just something I mentioned a few moments ago about when we're looking at pairs, looking at buying or selling, when it can look very bearish or very bullish. You can see here when EURJPY 1, 2, 3, and it was at this point I highlighted that EURJPY could have a very strong push up to the upside, because prices being brought down and pushed down into low prices, taking out the previous lows, pushing down when there's fear of the market, and then once the fear is in the market, everybody gets out, price pushes back up at the end of the week, and then look at the following 3 weeks, bullish, as you pushed all the way back up. At this point where price had been dropping and we had taken out the previous lows, and we hit lows that if you look left, there wasn't really much to look out for. We had this area of support which price broke through and then spiked back above. But you can see here, this was back in 2017. So there was lows that we hadn't seen in 3 years, and now we've had a big bullish run on EURJPY. Now, with that said, we have had a very bullish run. I still see more upside of EURJPY. However, we are coming to an area now. We've got 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. I will be looking, like on the others, EURAUD, EURJPY, Euro NZD. is to see a bit of a pullback on this pair. So I'm watching EURJPY around this level for potential short trades, for us to take a short trade down, which will be a sort of short to medium term trade. I'm looking for this to pull back down, come back down into sort of these regions where we will be looking at picking up that long trade once again. So yeah, I'll be looking out for us to potentially take short trades on EURJPY coming into this week. You can see here we've got this area of support, resistance, this sort of area here. Price may continue back up into this region with the bullishness at the moment. We may be able to push up a little bit higher. So this area here is going to be an area of interest where I will be looking for price to pull back on this sharp uptrend that we've seen from EURJPY, and to pull back, form support before we'll be looking at a push back up to the upside. So we're going to be monitoring and looking out for a EURJPY short trade coming into this week. Now GBPUSD. Now I'm looking out for this one. Right, we have to rewind back a few weeks on this. So GBPUSD, mentioned this for long term, that I was looking at price to come back down, take out these previous lows, these lows here, these lows here, these lows here, before making a push back up and having a complete reversal, come back up to 1.2750, 1.300, and I still think that is on the horizon. However, remember, the market opened up a couple of weeks ago and completely changed direction after a very bearish week. This massively bearish week, then it opened up on Sunday and pushed up straight away. And last week we continued this push back up to the upside as well. We go to the monthly here. You can see here that we've had quite a bit of rejection on the monthly once again of these levels down around 1.2250. We see we pushed down, so we keep rejecting this level. We've retested now a couple of times. However, what I'm going to be watching out for is this US dollar situation. Now, I do think that we have this 1.200 level, which never got met, that round psychological level. And it's quite a surprise that price just changed mid-air, no real support at this level. It just opened up on a Sunday and sort of changed direction. If I just go to the weekly chart, you can also see there wasn't really much support here. Price just after a massively bearish week flipped and pushed back up to the upside. It shows you how quickly things can change. But this 1.200 level is possible to still be met. And what I'm looking out for this week is that we could possibly see that. It does look like I've been calling bulls on pound pairs for the last 2 weeks when it looked like it was very, very bearish, and it's been correct. However, now I'm looking at this pair along with the US dollar. If the US dollar does gain this strength and push back up, we do see it push back up. I'm watching out for GBP to potentially come back down to these lows and meet that 120 before we see the overall reversal on pound all the way back up to the upside. Now, it's a bit early to call, but I have been right on all of my calls on GBPUSD. Remember, I called from this level here where we got stopped out by this spike. I was calling to come down to 1.20 or 1.2250 first. From this level here, which we actually achieved, which is 500 pips or so. And then when it was very, very bearish, I was calling the bulls here with pound. And we pushed back up to the upside. Now, I do think that we're going to see this actually come back down. And potentially we could see 1.200. Put on a Fibonacci here, we can see here we've got the 50% and the 61.8% retracement level. We've had a bullish end to the week. I'm expecting the market to open up and continue pushing up. But when we get into this region here, the Fibonacci levels, as just shown, we could be looking at potentially taking a short trade down here and pushing back down. And if we get into a short trade here and we do push down and things start to change quite quickly, we could be looking at that trade coming all the way back down. We break through this counter trend line, and it's going to gather speed, and we could come back down to 1.200, which is then where I think we could then see a full-blown reversal all the way back up to around 130. So that's getting a bit too far ahead of ourselves at the moment, guys. But yeah, coming into this week, what I'm expecting is for price to push up into this level where we can look for a short. Similar to last week when I said about looking for longs on GBPUSD, was when price was I think at this area. We're very, very unlucky to not get that long. Again, called perfectly. I had this level marked out on last Sniper Sundays, and we were looking for a long trade. We're expecting price just to dip a little bit lower into this region so we could look at taking a long. This was Monday, the bank holiday Monday, where there was no trading. And then Tuesday morning, bang, just took off. What we were looking for is price to come down, try and push down that a little bit lower, hit the 61.8% retracement level, which I don't believe we hit. As you can see here, we're going to hit into this zone, the 61.8 to 78.6% retracement. We wanted to tap into this zone and look for that bullish push up. We didn't get that, but pound did push up as explained. And many were looking for a short trade here. Now, the why I brought that up was because when we were looking at taking a trade here, we knew that it was a good opportunity to take a trade, because here we had a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and if price pushed down here, we're going to be at a lower low, so we could expect to come back up and make a lower high at least. Now, this week we can see here higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So even if we take a trade from here and it doesn't have a full-blown reversal down to 1.200, we know that price at this area here is due to making a higher high. So we can expect to pull back down and make a higher low at least. Where if things change, we can always look at hedging our trade and taking a long trade. At the moment, I'm looking at price to continue up a little bit at the start of the week. Potentially US dollar weakness at the start of the week, and then we can look for a trade down. So if US dollar comes back down and tries to retest this low made on Friday, then we can see a little bit of US dollar weakness. We can see EURUSD push up slightly, and then we be looking for potential trades from around these areas. Same as GBPUSD. And GBPJPY is a similar situation. So we did bounce off that. We came down on Friday. Explained to watch out for a buy from this trend line. We came down, fake out here, push back up to the upside. We're struggling around this daily resistance at the moment. However, similar situation. We'll just break this off. You can see here that we did have this. We've had this 3 sort of daily resistance here. 1, 2, 3 on the daily chart. So we've had this daily resistance. Sorry guys. We had this daily resistance where it's just bringing in short buyers. Before what happens? Price comes up and takes out the high. So there's all these short stop losses for short trades placed above here. The price comes up and takes that out. We've also got here this previous daily. Now we need to watch out because we don't know how quick this move could happen. We've seen here that we can have a very bullish week, and then it opens up on Monday, Sunday night, and it changes, and it's the new trend for the whole week. So here, even though we're very bullish at the moment, we can see on the weekly chart a bullish candle here. But if GBPUSD follows suit, we can expect a GBPJPY to do something very similar. So at the moment, we've taken out this high here. We're struggling a little bit. I do expect price to continue to push up a little bit higher, but then coming into maybe the mid part of next week, I'm expecting to pull back down as well on GBPJPY. Now GBPAUD is one that's a little bit more not confusing, but one that's a little bit more harder to basically give a direction right now. We can see weekly is very bearish. Monthly is it's just died. 2 massively monthly bearish candles. So the fact that at the moment we're just consolidating isn't something that you really want to be jumping into just yet. You can see here on Friday, just consolidating. I said it from Monday last week that after such big moves, this pair is going to consolidate for a while. This is why we haven't got involved with it yet. Consolidating, and I can see this happening for a little while longer. Why is that? Because with the pound, if the pound, we can see from GBPUSD and GBPJPY has potential getting weaker. But at the same time, we're potentially looking at Aussie dollar getting weaker this week, as it's been very strong. So we're looking at potential pullbacks on Aussie dollar pairs. So with GBPAUD getting weaker, Aussie dollar getting weaker, this may just consolidate for a little bit longer. So there's nothing there for us just yet. We need some sort of a setup, but I do definitely expect that we're going to take out these lows. I don't think we found a bottom just yet. So any little pullbacks, to short down possibly, but at the moment I can just expect the price to stick within this range for quite some time, and possibly even range a lot of this week. USDJPY, so this is what I'm sort of expecting here. USDJPY, we can see here on the 4 hour we have sort of been ranging here. We had a little fake out on Friday of this range, broke out, pushed back up. But if I clear this and go to the daily chart, there's nothing real convincing from USDJPY at the moment. You can see here between 107, 108, we've been in there that range since the start of May. Then before May, back to April, we were in this 100 pip range. Then the month before that, we were within this 100 pip range. So I don't really see too much going on here at the moment. However, it does look like a nice left shoulder, head, right shoulder. But USDJPY hasn't been the best mover in the recent months. And there's just nothing defining to kind of show us which way this is going to go. So I think this is going to be more of a trade that we could probably take trades on and take intraday trades and look for 50 to 100 pip moves. Now at the moment we've had this bullish move up. What have we done? We've had a fake out at the bottom of this range. I'm expecting something similar to happen, maybe a fake out to the top, and then we pull back down. So, but nothing there really just for us just yet on USDJPY. I don't really see this taking off in any direction. I think we're going to still be confined within this space for quite some time. We may break above higher. If we have rejection around the above 10800, we can look at short trades back down. But we're only ever going to be sort of contained around this 100 pip region until something changes or something else happens to give us a forceful breakout. Then going back to the US dollar, you can see here we need something to really break out of this range. Maybe that could come this week. Maybe with the non-farm payrolls, maybe we can finally break out of this. But remember, we've had bad non-farm payroll figures. We've had bad unemployment data coming for the last couple of months since coronavirus, and we haven't broken out of this range. So what's going to come to be able to break US dollar out of this range? That's what you have to think. We're in this range at the moment. What's going to make us? What's going to change the effect and the direction of the market in order to break this out of this range? So is something going to come this week? That's what we have to look ahead to. USDCAD, again last week, very choppy at the end of the week. So I've always explained that I'm looking for quite a sell-off on this pair. I've wanted price to come up to these highs and see a really big sell-off, but we just sort of been choppy of recent weeks. Here on a daily, you can see up, down, up, down. Just quickly go to the weekly chart. You can see here from the weekly candles as well. It's been bullish, then pushed all the way back down, pushed all the way back up, bearish, then bullish, then bearish, but pushed back up again. So it's been quite choppy. We've now finally had a break out of this range on the weekly, quite a strong break on the weekly. So I do see more downside on USDCAD. However, can we have a pullback first? I think we can. We are in this consolidation zone here at the moment. We've tried to break out on Friday. I think we can see a pullback on USDCAD, but not just yet. We have to watch out for this one. I think there is more downside. We could see price break down to the downside before a pullback up to the upside. At the moment, we're just in a consolidation zone on USDCAD. There isn't really much for us to look at or analyze on this. We need a bit more from this pair. We have had a strong break of the out of this range on the daily, which does suggest more downside. So at the moment, we need something to happen a bit more within this range before we can call it. A lot of these pairs, till the week starts, it's hard to really call it just yet. So sometimes you just can't call a bias until you see a bit more price action, which is quite difficult this week because we have the US dollar situation where we did see a big sell-off. I'm calling for this to push back up after such a very bearish week, and obviously opens up to that being wrong. So we have to potentially look at that early in the week and see if anything changes. But I do see finding support around these regions and pushing back up, which is what a lot of our analysis is then based on. So we're looking out for this coming into Aussie dollar, US dollar. We can make consecutive higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. We are now making higher highs. We tried to break out. We've made a higher high. We tried to break out of here a lot on Friday. We just took out the previous high here. Well, it was too early to look for taking trades as we had the Fed announcement on Friday. We had Trump due to speak on Friday. So jumping into a trade on Friday was too soon. Especially when we can see here, we are still making higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. But coming into this week, can this week be the week of change? And can this be the week that we see a pullback? Now again, like other US dollar pairs, I'm expecting to see this extend this push up. But like everything else, you can see here we made a higher, like everything else I've said about us potentially buying the US dollar pairs. We can see we've made a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Push on now, make a higher high. We can look at taking a short trade back down. It may just create a new higher low where we can make a nice trade, potentially take it. Then we can open us up to taking a hedge trade back up. But I do see a bigger pullback on Aussie dollar coming very soon. You see here on the daily, we've really just had no daily retracement. And a daily retracement here could now finally come where we've seen the US dollar come to the bottom of this range. If the US dollar was to come all the way back up, that would be quite a substantial push back down on all US dollar pairs. So if that does happen, if we do see the US dollar find support here, this is why it's so pinnacle. If we do see it find support here, the first real target for the US dollar is to come back up to the top of this range and come back up to resistance. So therefore, that could mean we then finally have a strong correction on a lot of these US dollar pairs where we could have quite a substantial pushback down. So Aussie dollar, US dollar, but very bullish. We go to the daily here, it's been quite bullish. Weekly, we're gonna see a bullish candle, and monthly is going to be very bullish. Now, if I just go to the monthly quickly, we can see it's quite bullish, but on every candle price action, we can expect to see a pullback. So we've seen this candle's close now. What we're going to expect is a pullback before potentially pushing up higher. Now we've got the whole month of this candlestick. So what we could see is this week or next week is to see a pullback here on the Aussie dollar. See that pullback? So on the monthly candlestick, we see that it has a retracement on the last candle. You could see a pullback on the monthly candle before at the end of the month we see a push back up on on Aussie dollar, US dollar, because I still prefer these pairs to push up higher long term, like Aussie dollar, US dollar, GBPUSD, EURUSD. But coming into the new month, we may now finally see that bigger correction that needs to happen before pushing back up. So watching out for Aussie dollar, US dollar to potentially break this high once again, extend this high, make a new high, where then we will be looking at taking shorts as we look for this to come back and make a higher low. Now, I mean, looking at once we do have a pullback, breaking all of this market structure and making a higher low on a higher time scale all the way back down. But our first targets would be the last higher low, which is this level here. And even from there, there's still a nice couple of hundred pips that we'll be watching out for. Similar situation on all Aussie dollar pairs. Aussie dollar CAD lining up nicely for potential trade back down. We've been making higher highs, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. We've now got left head potential right shoulder forming. Could come up and make a double top, but it's worth watching here. You see that we are finding resistance here. We had daily resistance in at this level. The price was rejecting. Patience will pay. The price will 90% of the time come up and take out these highs, which it has done now. And remember, we have tapped that round significant level, which I mapped out last week, which I was expecting to hit the 0.9200. As you can see here, had a bit of a push down, pulling back, forming a retracement. If we shall see this pair find some resistance at this level, we could look at that taking that trade down. So we're still watching this to see if there's any potential short trades back down. If Aussie dollar continues with strength at the start of the week and makes a higher high, that'll give us even more of an opportunity to take that trade back down to make it a new lower low. So we're watching out for the highs of these pairs. Aussie dollar, Japanese yen, just mapped this out. I showed you this last week, how this pair has been moving within these 100 pip parameters. 68, 69, 70, 71, 72. You see how we sort of step up, then step back down, step up, step down, step up, step down, step up, step down. Now stepping up to 72 region. looking for this to take out these previous highs here, make a high, where we will be looking at taking short trades. But this could happen very, very early in the week. Remember, we've got Aussie dollar news coming out this week, guys, on a couple of different occasions. So busy week for the Aussie dollar. And New Zealand dollar, US dollar, similar situation as the other Aussie dollar pairs. So we can see here we've now on the weekly taken out the previous highs. So when price was just trading just below, it's always where price could come up and pierce through and take out the previous highs, which it has done now. Here on a daily, we can see here we've just broken above. We're sort of just dancing on top of that resistance level, acting as support. We do have monthly resistance just above at 0.6300, which we could tap into and then see a sell-off. But again, it's all about how the market's going to open up and what direction it's going to take. So we need to be very, very careful on market open, see if there's any opportunities to take straight away and jump on on a new trend that could be created. You can see here, if we just make a range here, we've now got a higher high and a higher low. Price is just ranging within here. You can expect maybe a break to the upside, but we also need to be wary of the bottom. We need a strong break below here to see a trend change. But yeah, like other pairs, the US dollar pairs, if we see that US dollar weakness at the start of the week, we could push up that little bit higher, tap into the 6.6300 level, and then we can see that sell off down. So that's what we're going to be watching out for. So all eyes on the US dollar, guys, because a lot of our analysis, a lot of things are based on the US dollar. So it'll be a very, very interesting week to see how the US dollar opens here and how it continues. Yeah, I just don't think that a larger scale US dollar sell-off is going to happen just yet. Within this range, we have to see what's going to make us break out this range. We can easily pull back up and take out all of these highs. Take out all of these highs before we see a stronger US dollar sell-off. We're taking out the lows now. See this low here, taking out these lows. We could have one more push down, take out all of these lows, and then a quick reversal to the upside. So we're watching out for that, guys. But it is non-farm payroll week. I've explained many times before. Things can happen really, really fast on non-farm payroll week from market open. So market open, first hour or so, the market will settle. We'll see if there's anything in the Asian session, see if there's anything to jump onto straight away. But that's what we're looking out for the week. There are other pairs as well that I'm looking out for. I won't put too many on there because it can get too much. But for instance, if I'm looking at shorts on Aussie dollar, or say Aussie dollar Japanese yen, we're looking at NZD USD, but we're looking at short trades on Aussie dollar Japanese yen and Aussie dollar CAD. That may also transfer into New Zealand dollar Japanese yen and New Zealand dollar CAD. So there's lots of other pairs that are on the horizon that I'm looking at that I may also add during the week as well. So have a great evening, guys. I hope to digest that, mark out your charts and see what we're waiting for and what we're looking out for next week. And we look to jump into the market, see if it's going to be busy from market open. And yeah, there might be early opportunities in the market. Thank you, guys. Speak to you soon.